So thank you everyone for coming to join us today. My name's Jen, and between myself and my colleagues from FEL, we'll tell you a wee bit more today about our Sustainable for All project. And right on cue, my laptop switched itself off. There we are. Okay, so Sustainable for All is the name of our project. Okay. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? What are we doing? So, in essence, there is so much good work being done throughout the land, throughout the country, in terms of saving our planet, whether it's climate change, sustainability, recycling, it's all in there. And what we want to do is try and make some of these projects a lot more sensory accessible. Not just accessible in terms of a physical need, but actually sensory accessibility as well. Okay, so why are we doing this? And essentially, because if it matters, then it matters to everyone. Whether you're seeing or not, whether you're hearing or not, whether you're able-bodied or not, whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical, it matters to everyone. But by and large, a lot of things don't really reflect everybody's needs. And sensory loss simply should not affect whether something is accessible or not. The other thing that I've become very aware since we started this project is about choice. We're not all interested in the same things in life, and that's what makes us all human beings. So we need to look at different projects and make them not only accessible, but what's meaningful there? What sort of person would like to be interested in something? What would make them want to go to it? And that's across the board for any sort of activity that we might choose to do. You're only going to go to something if it's meaningful to you, if you get something out of it. So I think that's something that I'm quite aware that we need to keep in mind as well. Okay, this next part is a short video. We have a local school, Windsor Park School, that some of our children go to if they have a hearing difficulty, and they're learning BSL at school there. So we've got a short video here that just explains a little bit about what it means to them. So I'll just switch that on here.
Windsor Park Primary, with Scottish Canals, Falkirk Council and Forth Valley Sensory Centre. To mark Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee as part of the Queen's Green Canopy project. What do you want your world to be like in 70 years' time?
And someone having fun, a beautiful sun, a beautiful rain, and beautiful rainbow, and some grass, some flowers, some animals being free, and lots of people cycling
heard there from some of the children, and they certainly, this is their future. They have more time on this planet than we do, hopefully. So it's their future, and that's what they're looking to see. But it's up to all of us to try and make things happen. So we've got quite a lot of people here today that have that are involved with some of the projects that Fell have created, and they're here to find out a wee bit more about the sort of thing that we're talking about. So if we break it down into different parts, and we can have a think about, well, what about the information that somebody has before they make that decision to go to a certain project? What about, where's the information coming from? Now that might be that a lot of places use a website. It might not be, though. It might be written information, or where is that information coming from? And how accurate is it? Does it truly reflect what's going on in a project? Or is it, well, we maybe looked at that 2 years past on Tuesday. I'm not knocking it. I'm quite sure that we're exactly the same here. But for various reasons, sometimes information might not be current, it might be out of date, or it might not give enough detail as to what somebody would want to know. So, how flat is it? Can you bring a guide dog there? Is it in terms of, are the pathways wide enough to manage? Do you provide water for the dog? Etc, etc. What about refreshments? What about toilets? Physically accessible? Is there a link to a map, either to get there? You want somebody to be able to get to some place without having to stop and ask directions, when maybe that wouldn't be particularly easy for them to do, or wouldn't be particularly easy for them to appreciate the response that they get. Is there a map at the project of what's there? What happens? What would you like to do? So you might want to think about having a look at that information, and can you make it easier, simpler to understand? And what about some coding? For those of you that had the opportunity earlier to wander around, you'll see that we've started exploring use of Navilen's codes, and there's a wee display up the back there, up the back of the room. So a bit of an enhancement on QR coding. These are much more accessible for somebody that has a sight loss. And really, you can connect anything to a Navilen's code. We're just still exploring the nitty-gritty of how you actually do that. But it would be perfectly doable to have an audio-described passage, to have a video in BSL, or anything else you want to connect that would help enhance your project and what's going on there. Okay, so at the project, you arrive there, you've got there, and you know what should be happening there. So, is the signage there, is that clear? Or are you left to your own devices when you get there as to what way to go to get to different aspects of that project? Is parking, is there plenty parking? Is it physically accessible? What about the toilets? Are they close by? Are they well signposted? Sometimes you might want to include some information in different formats. Not everybody who has a hearing loss uses BSL. Not every blind person uses Braille. So there might have to be a bit of creative thinking about what formats you would want something in to make them accessible. What's happening at the project? What would somebody experience if they had sensory loss? Is that something that they would find enjoyable, meaningful, or actually it's not something that you've maybe considered, have another wee think. What about a walk round? Sometimes there's no better way to do things than actually just walk around the project, put yourself in somebody else's shoes and appreciate what's there. Take somebody with you, and do assure you that all comments, all thoughts are really useful to the shaping of this project. So there are some of you in the room today that have sensory loss. There's some of you who don't have a sensory loss yourselves, but maybe who know somebody who does, or maybe just you're in the sensory centre a lot because you know what we do here and can appreciate the need for such things. So everybody's comments are all very useful. Sensory awareness training, and that's something that we can be involved with from here, and a lot of organisations have taken us up on some sensory awareness, whether it be young people at school or brownies, scouts, that sort of thing, whether it be an organisation, a workplace where staff teams are more acquainted with sensory awareness. That's something to consider too. Above all else though, have fun with this. Okay, I mean, there isn't really a bad idea. There's just some that go with it and see how you get on. And some of the projects that I've been out visiting, sometimes with Stephen from Fell, we ended up thinking, do you know, it would be really great if we could create a leaf walk whereby somebody could be absolutely certain that they weren't about to remove a hedgehog from it underneath the leaves, where it was perfectly safe, nobody was going to go skidding through mud or into a puddle. How good fun would that be? Because of course we're not just talking about adults here with sensory loss, we're talking about children too. And what if it's perhaps a child in the family with a sensory loss and the other members of the family are hearing and sighted? You've got to be able to create things to suit all. We've got some other brief suggestions there. What about what can you hear? Bird song. Would that be really useful? What about what you can smell? Some sort of wildflower meadow, herbs that have different scents. Lots of things going on. There's some projects involved in using herbs and plants to make things. Some soaps and creams and things. Maybe that would be good fun. So I think it is all about getting your creative hats on, no matter what your position and where you're coming to this project from. Have fun with it. Go bonkers with ideas. So this project runs to spring next year, by which time we want to have an interactive map created of different projects that have gone that extra mile to make their project more sensory accessible. And at the end of it, we want to draw attention to these projects by making a map and providing this to people so that they know if they want to go someplace for a day out, a couple of free hours, then they know what's happening there. They know what's going to work for them, how they're going to get that information, and feel comfortable and secure that it's going to be just how they expect. And how will we know whether this has worked? By and large, because people will tell us. We will get that information, that people will tell us that was rubbish or this worked. And we need that information. What Fell projects should find is that people will join in. People who perhaps are not able-bodied, perhaps people who have sight difficulties, hearing difficulties of any description, of any level, but people will start becoming involved. They will become impassioned about what's happening locally, and they'll become more aware then of what matters to them. This last slide, it's almost the last slide, I think is probably the most important bit. This project ends in March. Somebody who is blind, deaf, hard of hearing, poor sight, across the board, no matter what how they would describe themselves or how we might choose to describe somebody's sensory loss, that's not going to stop in spring. Okay, so I think that's one thing I've been very, very clear about as we've been going around. We've seen the remnants of previous projects. Absolutely great, they looked like they were absolutely fantastic, but we've also seen some things that were broken, rotten, generally just not working anymore. But this is a project that has to keep going, like our planet. So, make sustainable for all, sustainable for all time. Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening.